Well, hello, and today we're going to be talking about Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, a cooperative deck building game. This product until now has only been available by directly importing it from America. I am under the impression that it is finally going to be coming to Europe, so let's have a look inside and talk about it. Now, I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler free as I can. However, there are probably going to be the odd spoilers here and there, so just be aware of that. Opening the box, you get this lovely sort of faux interior to a suitcase, and this is actually your kind of play mat. You also get a fairly nice set of rules. Okay, well, I've sorted the game back into its relevant boxes. Now, obviously, you first open up game box 1, and it will give you dark arts cards, villains, locations, Hogwarts cards, and your starting characters, which is Hermione, Harry Potter, Neville Longbottom, and Ron Weasley. In addition, you've got the various tokens that I spoke about. So you have these little fellas here, the little kind of Death Eater seals, which you put on location cards to represent the dark forces taking over the wizarding world. You get your attack tokens. Now, these, although they look quite nice, they're not the best made. I've actually got a couple of tokens where they're sort of peeling apart. Now, luckily, it looks like it's going to be fairly easy just to super glue those back together. You've also got your life tokens that I mentioned and your influence tokens. Now, they go on this little player board. So your attack goes here, your influence goes here, your life goes on 10. If you get all the way down to 0, you get stunned. You have to discard half your cards, and if I remember correctly, you have to put one of these on a location card. And, you know, the initial game starts off pretty easily, but as each year rolls around, the game gets harder and harder. Now, you could, in theory, play it hard. Here you go, actually tells you at the bottom. Discard all tokens and half the cards in your hand and add a token to a location. Reset your health to 10 at the end of the turn. So yeah, that can be pretty bad news. But yeah, your player card obviously goes in front of you. You then have the playing board itself. Now, with the playing board, up in the top here, you have your locations. You have your villains here, your dark arts cards here, and then you can have up to 3 villains. You can actually have up to 2, I believe, dark arts cards. And then over on the right here, you've got your Hogwarts cards, which is where you can buy stuff using the influence tokens. So I'm going to set up a game quickly and just show you kind of a flow of play. So I'm starting off with Harry Potter. So I've got his deck of cards. You start off with 10 and you draw 5. You play them. Then at the end of your turn, they go to the discard pile. You draw 5. If you ever can't draw, you pick up your discard pile, shuffle, re-deal. Fairly standard deck builder. Over here, you've got your cards. As you can see, you have up to 6 that you can buy. You then have your villain cards, your dark arts cards, and your location cards. At this point, we are entering spoilers, so look away now if you don't want to have anything about this game spoiled at all. I think spoiling game 1, not so bad. I'm going to talk in very generic terms about games 2 to 7 as well, but not go into any great detail, so it should be fairly safe. Right, so I've dealt out the starting kind of cards to buy. So we've got Wingardium Leviosa, Quidditch Gear, the Golden Snitch, Incendio, and basically just duplicates of those. Our starting villain, it's got a nasty ability of the active hero loses 1 life. And our dark arts is Expulsio, which active hero loses 2 life. So you draw a dark arts card, resolve that. You then check for your villains. Then you start playing. So before I even get going, I'm going to lose 3 life. Now, each hero has their own starting deck. You can tell which the card is because it will actually say the name at the bottom. It will also say game 1 in the top right hand corner. And you'll get Alamoras, and then an item, an ally, and I think you get another one which escapes me just now. So I'm going to get 4 influence tokens. I also get to do 1 damage to a villain, so I will do that. And what you do is you place the token here. When it gets to the life points of that villain, you've defeated that villain and they run away. Now, obviously on this you get the extra bonus of if you actually defeat a villain you gain an influence. So I've got 4 influence, so I could buy 2 Wingardium Leviosas, or I could buy just 1 Incendio. So I'm going to buy 1 Incendio, and then at the end of my turn I replace that, game goes to the next player, round and round we go. Anyway, let's get back to Harry then. So let's reveal the next star card. So all heroes lose a life and cannot draw extra cards. That's a real pain, that card, because a lot of good game strategies revolve around buying cards that draw you cards. So anyway, let's see what my 5 cards are. So I've got my Invisibility Cloak, which reduces the damage I take to a maximum of 1 per attack. And then my Ally, which I can either heal or attack. Now, because Harry's down on fairly low life, because he's also about to take a hit from Quirrell, I'm going to use this ability to gain 2 life. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 buy again, so I will buy the next Incendio. That means my starting deck of 10 cards is depleted, so I pick it up, shuffle it, and there's a chance I might actually draw those Incendios. Again, gameplay goes round with each player playing their cards, and one of the advantages of this game is it does play better with more players in many ways, because some of these cards that you can buy over here give you really cool abilities, like all heroes heal 1. So that's really powerful compared to just healing yourself. Okay, so my new hand, I've drawn my basic cards, but I've also bought my Incendio, which, as you can see, draws me a card as well as giving me an attack. So let's see what my Dark Arts is. He who must be named has appeared, and that puts a token on the location. Now, on the locations, which we haven't really looked at, you'll notice that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 places for the token. So when all 4 tokens have been filled up, this location disappears, and it's this location that's generating the 1 Dark Arts per turn. Of course, Quirrell's still around, so we take another hit, but we're going to beat him up a bit more now. So let's start off with the beating up. So first of all, I'm not going to defeat him, so I'm going to play that card, which puts another token on him. I'm then going to play that, which puts another token on him and draws me a card. The card I drew is another Alamora. So 1, 2, 3, 4 more purchase again. I think I'm going to buy myself some Quidditch gear, which gives me attack and healing. So anyway, as you can see, that's how the game goes. So let's fast forward a few turns. Okay, so we're a few turns on. We've got 3 tokens on our starting locations. We've got Draco Malfoy's turned up. We've managed to defeat the other 2 villains. We're close to defeating Malfoy. We just need to do him 1 more damage to win this particular scenario. My deck is now considerably bigger than 10 cards, and I'm about to draw my last card, so I need to pick this up, shuffle and draw 4 more. Hopefully I get all my attack or my card drawing cards, and that should then leave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. So yes, I have an attack, so I can actually win this turn. Let's see though what's going to happen here. So I turn this card over. It's going to make me lose a life. It's also going to make me discard a card. Well, I don't really need this card, so I'll discard that. And then I have 2 attack cards. It doesn't really matter. I will defeat Malfoy, clear the board. I have won game 1. I can now move on to game 2. So there you go, just gives you a quick kind of idea of how the game actually works. Obviously, at the end of each game, you need to find your starting cards, take them out of your deck, put the other cards back into the purchasing library, and once you've done all that, away you go. Now, I'm lucky, I actually got a slightly later printing of the game, so I didn't have any issues. I am aware that some of the decks got a bit mucked up and you got the wrong kind of card mix. Some of the backs on the cards, the coloration can be a little bit off and make it a bit obvious that This is maybe a new card. It's not a game you want to play with people who are going to sort of game that. It's meant to be a fun, light-hearted game aimed at kids. I think it does a pretty good job. I would say that the game has some nice little extras that come along. So, for example, now I've finished game 1, I can open up game 2 and see what the goodies are in here and add them into the mix. Now, typically, what happens is you get a new location, extra dark art cards, extra villains, extra cards for your purchasing library or your Hogwarts cards. You can also get extra things that obviously give you more villains, more dark art cards. Some of the locations do sorts of weird and wonderful things as you progress through them. And the game can actually ramp up its difficulty quite rapidly. So some of the dark art cards are absolutely brutal, as are some of the villains. Obviously, as your Hogwarts library gets bigger, it's going to be harder to find the spells you want. Some of them are really expensive. I think the most expensive card you can buy is 8 influence. So that can be quite a hard card to buy, but obviously it's quite powerful. The tokens, as I've already mentioned, they're decent, but I think they could be made better. However, you cannot fault these wonderful sort of faux metal tokens. They're great. Now, if all the tokens were of this standard, game would just be amazing. It is currently quite pricey to get in the UK because you have to import it from America. But as I say, I believe it is coming to Europe either this month or next month, particularly because there is now an expansion for this game. Now, I do rate the game, but there is some randomization. Obviously, there's the random draw of your deck, the random appearance of vital cards that you need to buy, the random appearance of villains, the random appearance of dark arts. And all of those, if they combine perfectly, you can have an absolutely brutal game. For example, in year 6 or 7, I think it was, we had one turn where every single hero was stunned and the location cards filled up with these dark influence tokens. And basically, if all the locations get taken out, you lose. So we lost because I think all the heroes were stunned. In addition, all locations were defeated. So it was an absolutely brutal game, and it happened really quickly. I think it was like 3 or 4 turns. We just couldn't get the cards we needed. The dark arts and villains came out in the perfect combination just to pump the locations full of tokens. And then I drew a load of cards that basically said damage you, draw extra cards, and it was just horrendous. However, in other games, it's gone a lot more smoothly. So there is a slight randomness that can be a little bit frustrating, particularly from game 4 onwards. In addition, as you're playing along, there can be other extra bits that come along to help you as a hero to win the game. And each hero is better at some things than others, but obviously when you start off, you just get your basic pupil. So Harry starts off not being particularly effective. I can't be a wizard. I mean, I'm just Harry. Just Harry. So yeah, he's pretty pathetic year 1. Obviously, as the game evolves, he does get better. And obviously, year 7's where you get all your ultimate powers. But you will have to discover that for yourself. Now, the rule book, I believe, is available on Board Game Geek. And then the extra rules, which I'm not going to show you, slot in the back here, and they just introduce very tiny amendments as you go along, and they've got this sort of ripped damage look, which is a slightly weird way of doing it. Anyway, that is basically a quick look at Harry Potter, the board game, or battle card game if you like, and I really do enjoy it. As I say, is it for everyone? Well, the randomness maybe not. I think up to year 4, it's going to be great for young kids, but the game does take a difficulty spike from year 4 onwards, which may be particularly frustrating for the young kids. Your mileage may vary. I do recommend it. I will be looking forward to picking up the expansion once it actually comes out in Europe, and I enjoyed it so much we actually played a monster version of this yesterday, from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon all the way through till I think it was about 7:30 at night. So we played this back to back for a good solid or 6 hours, and we had some really frustrating matches and some really good ones, and we did finally defeat He Who Must Not Be Named and defended Hogwarts in the battle. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed it. Just have a quick look at all the assembled bits. So your player boards, your starting cards, your Hogwarts battle library, so to speak, your villains, your dark arts, the lovely tokens, including, as I say, the sadly damaged ones, but they should fix up fine. And of course, good old Harry. Now, I've not shown you other stuff because I'm trying to minimise spoilers. Obviously, if people are desperate for that, I could always do a follow-up video where I do a spoiler version of this. Anyway, until the next video, I hope you enjoy your gaming.